Welcome into Jets Nation Radio, sponsored by Betway.
Oh, I love that. Be sure to check out the latest NHL odds with online sportsbook Betway. Welcome into Jets Nation Radio. I'm Angus Hout. How's it going there, Salmon Ray?
It's great to be here, as always.
Great to be here. Not great to be a Jets fan after Game 5.
Oh, man.
I'm choosing to ignore all of that. I'm just happy. I'm happy to. It's a beautiful day out.
It's already out of your mind.
Getting ready for my first round of golf of the year. I'm moving on, and so are the Jets.
Yeah, it was just an ugly breakup. It finally needed to happen, but you let go a long time ago. You knew it was going to happen. Yeah. It was unfortunate.
Long time coming.
It really was.
Probably should have happened a year ago when we missed the playoffs, but they wanted to run it back. It was you can't say it wasn't an interesting season.
Oh man, it was a roller coaster. You kind of love to see it, and the fact that the Jets did what they went out to do. Like, allegedly, the culture in the room is significantly better, so that's fixed. The Jets made the playoffs, only 5 games, but they made the playoffs. It'd be nice if it was a Stanley Cup kind of a team, but they did what they were set out to do.
Apparently they had the pieces. They thought they had the pieces there for a steep playoff run.
Oh,
I can't even say it. But that quote's going to haunt Chevy for a while.
It really is. But at the same time, it felt like this team could have done it. Like, the players believed that they could have done it. The fans believed it. Like,
injuries are tough. You can't blame the season on injuries, but I mean, we were missing almost 20 million cap between Scheifele, Ehlers, Morrissey, and Perfetti.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were $13 million over the cap.
Yeah.
So that's tough to compete with.
Yeah,
it really is. So, I mean, games 2 and 3, or sorry, not 2 and 3, 3 and 4, you can definitely be like, you got a bit of an excuse for those losses. But when it comes to game 5, like the game that's supposed to matter the most, and you're just like, man, like, look at when Pierre-Luc Dubois scored that goal that ultimately didn't count. How miserable did that guy look? Like, he looked
miserable the whole game. No one on the Jets other than honestly, like Wheeler and I guess Lowry, no one on the Jets looked like they even wanted to be there.
Yeah.
Brendan Dillon too, I'll say, but like Kyle Connor, the entire series looked completely disinterested to me.
He looked disinterested a whole lot this season, where it was just like, where are you, man? Like, there were times where it's like, I know you're trying to score. And like, you saw it in a couple games where he'd get 8 shots throughout the game and couldn't score. So I don't know if it was he's not wanting to be here or if he's just disappointed in himself for having such a low shooting percentage.
Yeah.
I
think that's
sorry.
I'll go. I was going to say, like, I think Connor kind of got into his own head kind of in a way like that, where like he's kind of like, I think he sees himself as one of the like top guys on the team and kind of someone that needs to be like a catalyst of creating the offense. And then when you're getting that many shots on goal and not getting the offense that you usually do within the regular season, I think he kind of got into his own head and then kind of showed in that game 4 or game 5, where it's just like everyone kind of felt like they were doing good techniques, good things throughout the series and just weren't getting rewarded for it.
Well, I can't help but wonder if we'll hear something along the lines of like what we heard with Morrissey a few years back, where he was really not playing up to his level, but there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes with his dad. Like, I almost wonder if something like that could be happening with Kyle Connor, where it's just like his head wasn't in it this year, because you're absolutely right. There were a lot of times throughout the season he just didn't seem like the same player.
Yeah, and I think like looking back at the beginning of the season, like the amount of games that he went without getting a goal, and just like I think something at the beginning of the season just wasn't clicking for him, and then just kind of couldn't really ever get into the groove that he would have liked to get into. Like when he scored 47 goals last year, it's like it was hard for him to kind of rebound from whatever he may have faced at the beginning of the year to kind of create an overall like great season. And I think he just couldn't really get out of his own head for the whole season, basically.
I think the pressure he put on himself was the big one, because he hit 47, and without COVID last year, he probably would have been a 50 goal scorer. I think he had that pressure of, I am a 50 goal scorer. I'm going to go do this. And then, everyone in the city, not saying that he is, but like, you have to believe that Kyle Connor is like, there's
There
a
were
pressure
those
of the city.
expectations.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, Kyle Connor had a rough go at it. And yeah, you kind of feel for the guy. And ultimately, what are your thoughts on the players' reactions to Rick Bowness's thoughts on the other night?
How much time do you have?
Oh, we got as much time as you need.
When I heard that, all I could think was, were these discussions not happening for the last 4 months? The players are all like, oh, we wish he would have said it to our faces. Was no one talking to the players over the last 4 months? Like, it's not like this happened one game and he went and complained in the media. This has been going on since January. And obviously, like, you have to figure Bowness had said something. Obviously, the message wasn't taken by the players and he had enough of that. So I just, like, you hope that things were being talked about behind closed doors and the message just wasn't getting across.
Yeah.
I think it really just shows that there's like a disconnect between what the team kind of expected and then what Bowness was kind of trying to say. And I think that just kind of culminated into what he said after game 5, because I'm sure there was messages sent after like the months of January and February. Like you don't go on a losing streak like that and not have like a discussion about it. But I think that the underlying issue that Bowness wanted to address during that month, maybe the players didn't take into the right way, or they just kind of found a way to kind of overcome it, but didn't really beat it, where like it was still kind of there, but we were playing good enough where you didn't see the causes that caused that. So maybe it was just something that was always there from like February to January area that just kind of seeped into the background but never really went away.
I also think there was a massive lack of accountability in those final, like, the guys anyone who said that Bowness was wrong for those calls, it's the way you could argue all day long about the way he went about it being wrong. No question there. He could have just talked to the players, all of that. Half of like 50% of people are going to say he did it the right way. 50% are going to say he did it the wrong way. The players who came out and said his message was wrong, that's BS, because you cannot watch that game and tell me that every guy on the Jets gave 100%. Dubois had a front row seat to half of Vegas's goals that game, at least. So like, I just don't think you can come out. Maybe some guys may have been giving their all. There's like, I mean, you always know Lowry's going to $120. Same with like Brendan Dillon, Nino Niederreiter. But I don't think you can say the team as a whole, and especially the top players, were giving it their all that game.
Yeah, no, it was heartbreaking to see the lack of effort from those high end players, and even the players that were in the bottom 6 that were here while Nikolai Ehlers was out in the early parts of the season when the team was succeeding, where they weren't scoring huge goals during that time, but they were playing such a effective game. And I don't know if it translated into that Vegas game. And yes, Vegas played their best game in game 5. Like, you can't.
I also think the amount they sat down the stretch, you're just not going to be ready for playoff hockey.
No, that's also fair. So I guess I'm being a little too critical on those guys. But
I don't know. It really sucks losing Isamont for nothing. And then the night the Jets get knocked out, he is the big hero in game 5 of that series. And another one that hurts is Kovacevic. I think just like losing these guys to waivers, like, are you telling me you'd rather have Carson Kuhlman than Mikey Isamont, or Kyle Copabianco than Kovacevic? I know Kovacevic is the other hand. That's why they kept Copabianco, but losing those guys with heart sucks.
It really does. Well, even Paul Stastny scoring the game winner or the series winner for Carolina. Yeah, I know you're not a big fan of Paulie Walnuts, whatever, but like that guy
Stas was never going to be here this year anyways.
No, but I mean,
it's not like we truly lost him for nothing.
But he was a big heart guy that if the Jets truly built a good heart team for heart guys, Paul Stastny probably would have won a Stanley Cup here in Winnipeg. I would like to believe that anyways.
I don't know. I think the room was so far gone.
Yeah, no, but
It's just
but I mean, we've talked about this before where it's, how many guys have walked out that room because of, I'd assume, two guys who are pretty darn toxic. And, now we're finally talking about moving on from them. But I think it's corrupted the room. And I think you have to strip down to the bare bones at this point, which is so unfortunate. But
Yeah.
I do think you need to strip down. I think there are still a handful of pieces you can keep that won't keep that culture going. But I do think the top guys need to.
Yeah. My dad asked me last night, he was like, what do you think the Jets are going to go do? I was like, if you just keep Lowry and Morrissey around, and depending on how their reactions to Bowness go, maybe one of those guys needs to go too, because I did not like Adam Lowry's response. I know that guy gives everything every game, but he should have been out there kind of calling some guys out, because he's like, I gave it everything I got, and I understand Rick Bowness is mad, but some guys did not give it everything they had.
Yeah, I wanted to mention about that too. I think that going into the year where they stripped Wheeler of the captaincy and kind of went with a communal leadership core, just where everyone kind of gets a say in the matter. I think they wanted to address the room, but I think the room didn't really adapt that change, as many people still said that they see Wheeler as the captain of this team even without him having the captaincy. So it's they removed him of the captaincy, but he was still the pseudo captain of the team even without it. So it's what's the point of removing the captaincy from him when everyone's just going to still see him as that captain?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the room needs an overhaul, and that the only way to go about that is both Wheeler and Scheifele being gone, which sucks. It does. I mean, the guys have given everything for this team in this city, but I just think the time has come for it to kind of be flipped. And Angus, that kind of leads into one of your questions. What do you want the Jets to do in the summer?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, before we get to that, I was going to say something. Blake Wheeler, mentioned had the Jets not gone on that beautiful run in 2018, he would not have been a Jet after that. And I wonder if that 2018 run kind of screwed the Jets long term.
Maybe. That's a very real possibility.
Yeah.
But I think it also showed this city can be great with a good winning team. We just need to get to that point.
Well, even game 3 at the whiteout party, the comeback and just the elevation of the people, man, it was just electric. That's the only way you could describe it. Unfortunately,
it's super ironic that, and I'm stealing this from someone on Twitter that pointed it out, but I can't fully remember who. This Jets core both started and ended winning game 1 convincingly against Vegas and then getting gentlemen swept. So yeah, it's kind of I think that's a good bookend, and I think it's time for a rebuild.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
No.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
They're running it back, and we're all going to be talking about the same thing in a much worse spot next year. But I think it's time for a rebuild.
Ray, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. I think we all know that the Jets kind of need to rebuild and kind of create a new core. But the issue is management and kind of the players don't see it that way. A lot of people in their exit interviews and stuff like that said that they didn't want to be a part of a rebuild, or no player wants to be part of a rebuild, because then you're just not able to go for the Stanley Cup. But I think it really just comes down to Connor Hellebuyck, where it's if you want to run it back or stay competitive, it all depends on his longevity with the team. So I think that almost the best thing for the team, hard as it is to say, I think that the Jets shouldn't really entertain keeping Hellebuyck. Even though that's a really weird thing to say, it's if you keep him, you're just gonna kind of extend this kind of core, and it's just
this limbo that we're sitting in.
Yeah. To truly become a better team, I think we need to have a changing of the guard. We have Dom in the OHL who's doing really good. Goalies can become really good from out of nowhere. So I don't think it's reasonable to kind of like to say like to get rid of Hellebuyck, but it's like I think it's what needs to be done to create the best overall team into the future.
Yeah, I think like obviously you can't run it back. I think the most likely thing that's going to happen is an attempted retool. You move out, you try and extend your window by 3 years for however long Connor, Morrissey, and Ehlers are here by signing Hellebuyck to like a 2-year extension or something, and then building around like Lowry's got another 3 years. I think Ehlers has another 3. Connor has like 2 more. And like you have to move on from Scheifele and Wheeler and probably Dubois. But I think they're going to try and build around some pieces that they already have. I don't think it's going to be super successful. I think it's going to just extend the misery. But I also can't remember, one of the insiders, Drager maybe, was like, Winnipeg isn't a market that you can rebuild in because people will just stop going to the games and the team will start losing money. So, I mean,
But I mean, like, look at
it's a
what
weird
Minnesota
situation.
did, though. Like, they didn't go through a rebuild; they just went for it, and like they tore down and rebuilt in a single summer. And they were going to go through some pain, and they kind of avoided that pain so far. Like,
yeah,
Minnesota
that is true.
Was that team for so long, and then they got rid of Suter and Parise. So just copy them. You already have a Connor Hellebuyck.
Minnesota's about to go into cap hell, though. Next year is when the cap really starts to really affect, like the dead money really becomes an issue for them. But
the Jets don't need to deal with that because you can probably move on from both Wheeler and Scheifele and Dubois. Super simple. Sign and trade. Matthew Tkachuk, Dubois. You move on from Scheifele. You find some other 30-year-old schmuck that wants to have a go at it, or you find some young guy.
Dubois not getting Matthew Tkachuk return, unfortunately.
No, absolutely not. But I mean, like a first and a reasonable player. You get another top 6 guy. Yeah, it's not exactly 1-for-1, but it's something. And
who
knows?
I think the big thing about trading Dubois is like, even though you're not going to get the return you kind of want for him, I think that like you kind of get more in terms of like being able to change the room and kind of change up what you already have. So like, even though the return isn't as much, you're kind of getting extra in what you're able to kind of change and kind of adapt to your team as well.
So let's just say that Connor Hellebuyck is kind of like, nope, you guys haven't impressed me. I want out, and he demands a trade. Is there any way that the Jets could win a trade for Connor Hellebuyck? Like on paper, you kind of lose that every time.
Yeah,
really?
Definitely.
You guys think
I mean,
I know Cheveldayoff
one
is great
year
at trading
of a top 3 goalie in the league. Like I think you could get a good return from a team. Like, I mean, Edmonton's kind of found their guy now, but I think Edmonton, like last year, would have paid everything to get Connor Hellebuyck there. Same with Toronto. I think like Hellebuyck would make Toronto a cup contender. Like they're already a cup contender, but like a borderline cup favorite.
Yeah,
it's the stability that he adds at that goalie position is something that not a lot of goalies add. And I think
getting him for such a good price point too, 6.1, like that's mint.
Yeah.
But like my issue though is like I've seen so many trades where it's a 1-for-6 deal, and the 1-for-6 deal, the team that pulls in 6 players usually kind of gets screwed on the whole thing. So like that's my worry is you might get a sweet deal for Connor Hellebuyck, but Cheveldayoff also knows how to trade and make magnificent deals. So we don't want to take that away from him, but there's always just that fear of being a Oilers fan from growing up, whether it's like, oh, we're going to get screwed on this one.
I think that's one thing about goalies too, is like goalies don't tend to have like those like massive returns of kind of prospects and pieces and stuff like that. Like they're kind of seen as like lesser value, and almost like the last time a goalie went for a 1st-round pick was Corey Schneider for the 9th overall pick. So it's like, or like that's the one that
which is absurd that because goalies are arguably the most important piece.
But they're also such voodoo. Like you don't know what's happening with a goaltender.
True, and you also you don't see goalies moved a lot, like big name goalies.
Yeah, that's
No,
why
like-
I think Hellebuyck is going to have such a massive return too. It's like you're getting a Vezina caliber goalie, someone that can just be a workhorse and play 60 plus games. It's like he's a
Not that he
valuable piece,
should.
but I just don't think, yeah, but it's like he's just not going to get like the massive return that like equivalent player would do. Like he may have like insane value to the Jets, but in a trade, they're not going to have that same value seen as a return.
Absolutely.
Where in the league do you think Connor Hellebuyck would like? Where would he best fit into the another team?
It's hard to say because, like, obviously, if you're trading him, he's going to a contender.
Yeah,
Who like LA maybe because
LA would be
is Corpusalo assigned after this year?
No.
Yeah, so like an LA maybe, or even like a Toronto.
Toronto would be just crazy.
Yeah.
But so like, do you want like? Well, I guess Matt Murray's contract's ending this year.
No, it's
Samsonov
next year.
Next year? Okay, my bad.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Yeah.
please don't send. No, I don't need old man Murray coming here to break down.
No, I don't think there would be a goalie coming back. I think the Jets, if they're doing that, would just go with it within the system.
Would you go like? Would you bring in Oskari Salmonen and Arvid home? Like just,
Sure.
just.
I mean, if you're going rebuild,
go
bring
two
in
young
anyone. It
goaltenders
doesn't really
and-
matter.
Yeah, I guess so. You'll really go for it and just be
Yeah.
like, all right.
But if you're going rebuild, you do it in the summer of 2022 when the draft class is stacked, not in
Yeah.
the summer of 2023.
Stupid.
Little late.
Just a little
Yeah.
late. Oh, Connor Bedard in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
I'm so happy we didn't trade
Yeah.
Brad Lambert or Chaz
Yeah.
Lucius or Rutger McGroarty at the deadline.
Yeah, I can't believe I was
Yikes.
fighting for that.
I have a
Lambert's so
different
good.
team for Hellebuyck though, that
Oh,
I think like he's not a contender, but I think one team that may be kind of like it's kind of like a popular pick, but I think Detroit could really use him.
Oh,
Where like they have
100%.
a really up and coming young team. He's from the area, and like he bought a house in Michigan. It's like I think that like having a very solid goaltender there, and like they have the assets too. Like I think that's the one thing that's different than like a trade with like LA or something like that. I think Detroit has more assets that they would be willing to part with to get Hellebuyck. And I think that just like the Jets would also prefer him to the East just in case of any
Yeah.
like follow through on that. So I think that Detroit is like a really kind of dark horse, but like also may just be emerged as like a team that would want him the most.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
actually
see-
have two. And I'm gonna go on first and say this conversation's making me really
Yeah.
sad. But I would say Buffalo, but they have Devin Levi coming up. So you're probably like maybe a guy to fill in for 1 year before Levi's like fully ready. But Ottawa has a really good young team. Who was their goalie this year?
Cam Talbot and Gustafson.
Yeah.
No,
So I
Gustafson
think
got
Connor
traded.
Hellebuyck could put that team over the edge for a year or multiple, whatever, if they re-sign him.
Yeah.
I thought
Like
there
they
was
think
two.
the
have
one-
a really good young team.
The one problem I have with Ottawa though is with DeBrincat not like knowing about his kind of longevity with the team. I think if they trade DeBrincat, it would be kind of less likely that they trade for Hellebuyck. Like they want to have a competitive team, and like having a major RFA piece, and like they're mentioning that he might be traded in consecutive drafts. So it's like it's hard to trade away DeBrincat, but then trade for Hellebuyck when they already have some good young goaltender pieces too. Like I think they have like Sjogard, who's like a 6'7" goalie who's massive and like has shown some promise. But yeah,
So-
Ottawa's another good team.
So why not send PLD and Hellebuyck out to Ottawa? Because like PLD loves the French, so he's right there on Quebec's border. And then DeBrincat and other come back this way. I don't care who.
What about Montreal?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
the Cavs can kick rocks, so no. I'm like, ooh, really? Who are you going to trade from Montreal right now? Not a soul.
True.
Yeah,
That's
you,
true.
you want Josh Anderson?
want
'Cause I don't
Kovacevic
want. Yeah, well,
I think it
Pierre-Luc
depends
Dubois
on
being a
the
big
direction though too.
Yeah, that's true. But Pierre-Luc Dubois being a big old piss baby about this, I hope that he ends up in anywhere but Montreal.
No, I
And-
hope he ends up in Montreal and they see his true colors. He's great for 60 games a year, but the other 22, you're going to hate him because it doesn't look like he cares.
I think one guy that that the Jets would probably want is like Kirby Dach, a good Western boy,
Ooh.
and like basically like almost like a PLD light right now, but like he's had injuries in the past, and like with that trade at the draft, I'm not sure how eager Montreal would be willing to pay that price to get Dubois when if they could wait, he may stay or go there if he's a rental instead or like sent to a rental team.
I was so afraid you were going to say Josh Anderson.
No,
I was like,
that
don't do it, Ray.
no, I'm not doing that.
do
No.
it.
It's everyone's lazy answer. Kirby Dach added to this team, though. Man, that would be a sexy
And
name.
he's young, so that would be a good.
Yeah.
He's a center, right?
Yeah, he's a center or a wing.
So having Kirby Dach and Brad Lambert as your
Whoa, and then
Two
you throw
centers.
Morgan Barron on that line. Like, you throw Morgan Barron up with one of those boys, too?
Or Chaz.
Or Chaz?
Chaz. And
Let's-
Perfetti's still there.
All right, let's go into a rebuild, not a total rebuild, but let's kind of retool for 2 years and then let this team really grow in the next 5. Like, I'm genuinely excited about where this team is going.
Well, I think they have some good top end young pieces, but they don't have a ton of young depth. But I think, and Angus, you very briefly mentioned it earlier, what the Rangers did was bar none the best way a team's handled that situation. They sent a letter to their fans that were like, hey, we're doing a rebuild. It's not going to be forever. Please keep supporting us. But another thing,
But I think Jets fans would pay money to watch a team lose that was given everything they got. If they had like a young team that was just working their tails off and it's just like, shit, I'm sorry, man, we can't win. Like the Oilers of the 2010s, that was a team that worked their asses off in a very comparable city. And yet they weren't selling out Rexall at that time, but they were getting very close game in and game out. Like they were still 1,000 seats short. Whatever, that happens when you rebuild. But if you tell the fans this is what we're doing, we're going to do it the best we can, we're going to get some good pieces within the next 3 years, then watch us come. Hell yeah, I'm into that team. I think the city of Winnipeg would be behind a team like that rather than big piss babies like 55 and 26.
So one thing that I actually found interesting, I learned recently, was all teams have corporate sponsored seats, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the average in the NHL is like 30%. Somewhere around like 35%.
Yep.
But the Jets sold out their season tickets so quick. Theirs is only around like 10%. That fills out the rest. If they come to league average. So what I heard was basically the video they put out that everyone was upset about, understandably, was less directed towards individual fans and more directed to businesses in Winnipeg, being like, hey, the Jets being here is good for the city, which is objectively true. You look, like I remember growing up in Winnipeg, I didn't see cranes. I didn't, because there was nothing downtown. You can't drive downtown without seeing several cranes now.
Yep. Yeah. And
the Jets are so good for the city that fans, we need to keep supporting, doing our best. But these businesses like Canada Life, like Bell, like they also need to do their part, which right now they aren't doing. We're at the very bottom end as far as like corporate support of the team goes. Because they didn't need it. Now they do.
I don't know what it's going to take, but I think Cheveldayoff has to be honest with this team, or he has to step away. I think that's a big one that a lot of Jets fans are worried about right now. Is like, it's been 13 years of you've got 3 series wins in 13 years. What the hell are you doing? Yeah, Kyle Dubas has he finally won one, but 2 of those 3 series wins were in 1 year, and the other one was a sweep in the tightest sweep ever.
Yeah. I think one thing that that's going to be really important for Cheveldayoff is through the past 13 years or so that he's been the general manager, he's been a lot more patient than I think a lot of general managers are, and kind of he doesn't make a trade just for the sake of making a trade. He puts in a lot more thought, and I think that for him to be the most optimal GM for the Winnipeg Jets right now is I think he's gonna have to burst from his like kind of patient bubble and kind of like answer and kind of do moves that wouldn't be kind of Kevin Cheveldayoff moves or Winnipeg Jets moves. Like it's gonna be something that like isn't something we've seen before. Like something where like he recognizes the core is not where it needs to be and kind of doing something about it. Because like sure the easy thing is just to keep everything together and run it back, but then you're just kind of pushing that can down the road and basically creating like a monster of a problem next year when you can't trade the guys anymore because they're on expiring deals. So I think that like either Cheveldayoff has to kind of change the way he runs as a general manager, or I think he needs to recognize that he's not the general manager that is for the job to kind of recreate what the Winnipeg Jets need to be.
Yeah, and one thing that I think that we need to remember is Kevin Cheveldayoff has won a ton of trades and drafted incredibly well. Like we cannot forget that he has done a great job for this city. The only issue is he hasn't built a successful team. He's done everything right, but win. And I know you can like point and look at a bunch of other teams in the NHL and be like, well, these guys haven't done diddly in how long? Well, still doesn't matter. Your job as a general manager is to create the product on the ice that's going to probably win, so that way you can sell jerseys, do this and that. Talking to one of my guys at work, and he was like, yeah, the Morgan Barron jerseys were finally on the NHLshop.com. Like that was the name. And Morgan Barron sold a ton of jerseys because he cut his face. You don't get moments like that unless you're in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, playoffs are good for everything.
They are,
Everything
yes.
is solved when you make the playoffs, but
and go deep into the
you
playoffs.
just need something needs to give. They can't just keep running it back, doing the same thing, and expecting different results. So this is going to be and we were saying this last year, and it didn't end up being a very interesting offseason. It's going to be interesting one way or another, because even if they decide to run it back, that is a devastatingly bad choice. And now we know that. Last year, there was a little bit of hope, like, it was an anomaly year. All of that, guys just weren't playing up to their potential. But now looking at it, it's like, we know the potential. We've seen it over and over and over again with this core, and it's not there. The franchise needs a facelift. And the first thing that should come with that is getting rid of those and going to the Heritage.
There. Ooh.
And I'm back. And we're back to the summer. So I'm back on the let's get the Heritage.
Let's go.
Primary.
I wouldn't say no to that. Would you do a reverse Heritage where it was like red rather than blue? No?
Not as the main jersey. No.
But like if we did like reverse retros, but like they did Heritage they made those.
I would actually, ideally, it's never going to happen because the logo's different. But ideally, having the Heritage and then the white reverse retro as our primary jerseys would be sick. Never going to happen, but get the Heritage as the jersey number one. Come on.
Honestly, you got to do it. Like, I like this logo. It's fine, but we got to go back to what worked, and that's what worked.
Then we'll start getting these retro jerseys.
I'd be variations of these. I don't know. Can you mess with the maple leaf, though? You can't make that any other color.
Yeah, but you kind of see what Ottawa did, too. Like, Ottawa changed their logo back to the old one, and like it's still seeing, like, you kind of see both, and it's just like you're like able to like appreciate both, and you just, I don't know, it's just like, so like I feel like a logo change could also be something that could be really kind of cool to see too, with like all the change that's probably going to have to occur.
I think so. I think it's a full, like, this is a new year, new us come next September. It's going to be a full upheaval. And I think so many teams have been going the way of the retro. Like Ottawa, you saw them do it. Calgary, they made the retros their third jerseys, then they switched them to the primaries. Even Arizona made the retros their thirds, then made them their primaries. The Jets made the retros their thirds this year. Why don't we go with primary next year?
Let's do it. And I mean, could you imagine that reverse retro, but as a home jersey? Unless they do it the baby blue, and then I'm gonna be pissed about that. Or the aviator blue.
No, it'll be the next jerseys will be the Heritage. I'm almost sure of it. It's just a matter of when that's actually going to happen.
You're gonna pull an old Howard Manshine on us and be like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is gonna happen," and it never happens.
I'm going to keep going with it. Don't you dare talk badly about H.
Listen, I could not talk badly about Howard Manshine. He is the biggest beauty in this city.
He's
Ray,
a
I know you
Winnipeg
don't
radio legend.
icon. Not like that dude is the closest thing we have to a rock star in this city. And like I've been out with him. He introduced the Trues the other week when I saw them, and people lost their minds more for Howard Manshine than they did for the Trues. It was amazing.
He's H. He's legendary.
Icon. Yeah. Legendary is the only way to put it. And like the city will never forget about H. I love him. Ray, if you ever want to tune into 92.1 City at like 8:00 your time at night, like there's just this old stoner dude who talks about rock radio, and it's phenomenal, buddy.
And he's just so knowledgeable about it too.
That too. It's not like he's some dummy. He's just like a smart dude. He's really cool. Yeah, I love Howard Manshine. Nothing wrong to say about that guy. And like a pure soul too. You meet someone, you're like, I think you might be a little bit. You're hiding something. Not him. No, he's good. All right, we've got a full off season coming up here. We're going to talk about a lot of Jet stuff.
Gonna get into prospects, we'll break down the draft. We're doing everything.
We're gonna yell about Kevin Cheveldayoff doing nothing and hanging out at his cabin. You guys just tune in all summer long. I promise you'll be entertained. We're also
I don't stand by that last comment, but continue.
We're also maybe gonna do food reviews. I might do food reviews, depending on what these guys want to do with them. I don't know. If you're gonna be in the city, Sam, we gotta try some food, tell people where to go. This city has got some good food.
Go to Red Top, go to Dal's. You'll be happy about it. Fantastic.
Prairie Donair
great
in
pizza at Dal's. Fried chicken at Red Top. Can't beat it.
Oh, buddy. Donairs at Prairie Donair on Osborne. Like, well worth the stop. Go check out some Donairs there. I don't know what we're doing this summer. I'm making it up as I go. These guys are gonna hang out. Thanks for hanging out, guys.
And we're glad you're all along for the ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the goal over the summer, hit 100 subscribers before the end of by the start of next season. So, subscribe. We'd love it. And continue to support jetsnation.ca. I mean, we got articles coming out again. This is the third time we've stopped and started. So, keeping
them on their toes.
One day we'll be profitable, and I will have the energy to write all the time. Boys, thanks for joining me for the 2022-2023 NH Jets season. As I have a stroke and slur my way out of this.
That was it's a tough ending. Thank you all for tuning in. Ray, where can they find you?
They can find me at ray.howe, or Brad Lambert is him. And let's just hope that the off season we see some change.
I'm hijacking the end of this podcast. Angus, where can people find you?
If you can find me at Angus Hout on Instagram and Twitter, that'd be fantastic.
And make sure to check out all the Jets Nation's accounts, some variation of Jets Nation on all social media platforms, jetsnation.ca. I'm Sam, SBrownell12 on Twitter, Sam Brownell Radio on Instagram. Thank you all for tuning in.
Have a great week, friends. We'll talk to you again soon. Be sure to check out the latest NHL odds with online sportsbook Betway.